Hey y'all, welcome back to the Straight No Chaser podcast, where we keep it unfiltered, honest, and all the way real. Today, we're diving into something that's been on my mind a little heavy. And you've seen a lot of it in the headlines, right? You know, Texas is underwater. People are crying out for help. And the ones in power, oh, they're on vacation. They're ghosted, or they're telling folks to pull themselves up by their bootstraps they don't even have. So today's episode is called The Scam of Self-Reliance. When government gaslights the people. Because that's ultimately what it is. And baby, let me tell you, this whole idea of being totally self-reliant, of not needing anything from our government, anything, saying we don't do handouts or government shouldn't interfere with our lives. In today's episode, you're going to learn why I say all that's a lie. A dangerous, deadly, expensive lie. And we're going to break it down piece by piece. Okay? So let's get into it, y'all. So I want to start with first, what is self-reliance? Because it sounds noble, right? Sounds like something you would want to do. The idea that you're strong, independent, that you don't need help from anyone, including the government, right? You got it all under control. Your money, your food, your safety. You handle your business. And where did this even come from? The roots go deep. They go back really deep, back to the American myth of rugged individualism. Think pioneers, cowboys, bootstraps, right? But even those folks had help. Government land grants, free labor via slavery, never forget, right? Railroads built by immigrants. They were never really on their own, right? It was about who got help quietly, while others were told to sink or swim. So when they talk about self-reliance now, I need you to understand it has nothing at all to do with independence. Independence is not on the menu. It's about cutting off support systems and shifting all of that responsibility to the individual. And don't forget, you're still paying the taxes, but you're not supposed to get nothing out of it. So that when a disaster hits, just like it did Texas, we see how fake and cruel that narrative is. You understand? We see how cool it is when you see it in action when something happens. You know when you find out what's real? When reality slaps you in the face. You can push all the rhetoric you want, but when your rhetoric does not align with your reality, something will lose. And it's usually the propaganda and rhetoric. Because if the propaganda and rhetoric doesn't lose, then you lose. You could lose your life, your freedom, anything. But that's why I say one of them has to lose. Somebody has to. Somebody has to be the one to say, I lost. Now let us talk about Texas. That flooding has devastated communities, okay? Over 100 people are gone. You have families completely misplaced because there were homes that were literally picked up off their foundation and carried down the river. And the thing is, instead of showing up with massive resources, with clear communication, with support, the local and state government, they're there, but it's only so much that they can do. This is the discussion we were having before the election. It's only so much that they can do. We got politicians making press statements after the fact. We got Raphael. Oh, let me say his name correctly. We have Ted Cruz. Once again, he's missing in action. Yep, he's missing in that. The same man. Don't forget, this is the same elected official who dipped to Cancun when the power grid had failed in the wintertime for Texans. And now he's in Greece with the family. He had a scheduled vacation. And the same voters keep electing these people who are sitting in flooded homes, wondering where the help is. I don't understand. We got to be real about this, y'all. We have to be real. This, to Republicans, I need y'all to understand, when they used to tell you about small government means you pay in, but you get nothing out of it. We have just enough government, just a little bit, just enough government to help the rich people. You're not going to get anywhere near the stuff that they're getting. No, because their primary focus is serving the people who keep their pockets fat. And that's just the truth. That's why when I hear the propaganda about small government, I'm like, small government only works for the select few, the privileged. It won't work by and large for all the rest of us because it's not set up to work for the rest of us. But understand what you're seeing with Texas. Apparently there were floods recently in New Mexico that resulted in some deaths as well. But you got to understand, when you're looking in Texas, that's what small government looks like in practice. It literally means you're on your own. That's why I keep saying conservatives are really socialists. They just don't know it. Or they know it, but they're in denial. Because when you're saying, I love small government and I don't mind being on my own, that means your family has to fend for itself. That's what that means. It means you pay taxes every year. Every year. But when the water rises, nobody's going to come. That is not self-reliance. That's abandonment. That's playing somebody for a fool. That's what that is. But it isn't what you all may think it is. You're not owning politicians by doing that type of stuff. If anyway, you're taking resources and things out of your own pocket that you and your family absolutely positively need. Absolutely. That's why anytime I would always hear this discussion about small government, I'm sitting and going, well, one, how small? Because I've never seen them shrink government so small it could fit in a woman's uterus. They don't have no problem with large government when they're trying to tell women what to do with their bodies. But magically, when it's everybody else, we got to talk about it. We got to think about it. That's why I keep saying, if you want to change how things are, use government to control men. Then it'll change. Because men aren't for being controlled by entities and systems. You understand? Not real strong men. They are not about being controlled by entities or systems. So those men will actually push back and make shit happen. But understand, the Republican Party has been selling this mess to the American people about self-reliance, not needing government for decades. This is not a new sales pitch when Trump came along. They had been doing this, even though they would still vote to make sure that government would show up for their constituents. That's the big difference we're running into now, is you're not going to get somebody to act like an adult in the room. It's not that simple anymore. Everybody seems to have an axe to grind. They got an issue with somebody. They're holding on to some resentment versus being focused on working and doing what needs to be done for the American people. Everybody acts like that's too much. Our elected officials, they act like that's too much to do. Oh, I can't be cordial and figure the shit out and get it done. No, but we're expected to do things that they can't do. But they make way more money than we do, have way more power than we do. But that's what's expected of them versus us. Okay? That is what is expected, with them versus us. That's why I'm like, Ask yourself, do you really want to be on your own and still be required to pay into the system? Because to me, the fuckery happens when you're still required to pay into something that doesn't even work for you. I guess I would look at it a little differently if they were talking about, okay, we're going to peel back all these resources, but now you also don't have to pay federal taxes. Well, that's a different conversation, but notice they didn't say that. We still got to pay taxes, but we don't get anything from it. That's why I'm asking people, well, what are you so excited about? What did you get? And they say, we won. You didn't win anything. The rich and the powerful, they won. That's who won. And if you're not one of them, well, you didn't win anything. You just you want a seat to watch what's going to happen to you. You can look at it while it's happening to you. I'm telling y'all, man, our government a long time ago, they sell you the dream of self-reliance, but they sell you that dream because they want you to be prepared for when they don't show up. That's real talk. They want you to be prepared for when they don't show up. And that's a problem. Now let's talk about why this scam, we're going to talk about why this scam actually exists. Republicans. And let's call it what it is. This is mostly a GOP problem. And it's because they've convinced people that government is the enemy, which I find interesting because even when they're in charge of government, the people still believe in what they say. But if government is bad and you're in charge of government, why am I listening to you? I never understood that. That's something I never understood. But the GOP does a fabulous job of convincing people, right, that government is the enemy. But I've asked myself why, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if people stop expecting the government to serve them, then those in power can funnel resources to corporations and the wealthy, and they won't get any kickback for it. That's what it's about. If you already think that your government doesn't work for you, right? So then other people can take advantage of all those resources and tools that you aren't taking advantage of. And it goes back to what I said before. Nobody's giving your money back, though. You're still paying taxes into a system in which you're getting nothing out of, while businesses and rich people don't pay anything and get all those benefits. It's nothing but a transfer of money and resources to people who don't need it. People and entities that don't need it. Period. That's what it is. That's what it is. So Republicans will cut public programs. They will defund emergency response systems. They will underinvest in infrastructure. They don't mind doing all those things because doing that stuff, again, it makes government less effective, which in turn makes you think your government doesn't work for you and it just is a dog chasing its tail. They'll even sit around and deregulate industries that poison your water, your land, and then tell you that it was about freedom. None of this stuff is about freedom, y'all. Everything is about money and power. Freedom, please. Please. Because ask yourself, what are you getting freedom from? Freedom from what? From safe roads? What? Clean water? Rescue boats? Like what are we getting freedom from? Because I need you to understand something. When a disaster hits rich folks' area, oh, they get help. Oh, they get help. They rebuild quickly. The media rushes in. But when it's working class, black and brown communities, crickets. You're not going to get anything from your government. Hell, sometimes they'll even blame those very communities. You should have moved. Nobody ever says that to the people living in Tornado Alley. You should have been prepared. I don't know how you can prepare when you're already living check to check and you don't have enough money to you barely have enough to survive. How are you going to have enough to prepare for a natural disaster? Because, see, y'all, that's the scam. That's the scam. That is a scam. The bar for what people are allowed to accept from their government, it's been set so low that basic survival is seen as a luxury. A luxury that not all get to own, get to have and possess. That's the part that's even more unnerving. That the American public has allowed rich and powerful people to tear up their government and talk shit about it at the same time and then not expect nothing from it. The rich people get plenty, though. The rich people know the government has a lot of resources. And if they can get their hands on those resources, that's one less thing that they have to pay out of their own pocket for their resources. You get it? That's why when I hear people say, rich people don't steal, I'm like, obviously you've never been around anybody rich. Of course they steal. Why wouldn't they? Because they're rich? Come on. Stop giving people unnecessary and what do you say? And giving them the reputation that they don't deserve. Because they don't deserve to be known as people who don't steal. You don't have any proof of that, but you do have proof of rich people stealing. When that company that they own takes money from you that they knew they weren't supposed to take, they can take it in one day, but it takes 7 to 10 business days to give your money back. Pay attention. Pay attention. America, you shouldn't feel like your survival, basic at that, is a luxury. Thank goodness somebody thought about me, because if they didn't, I'd be screwed. You shouldn't have to think that way. That means your government isn't working properly. This is what I keep trying to tell people. It's not working properly. Folks can say whatever they want. This government is being raggedy, and it's purposeful. It's designed for that. It is designed for that. It is not designed to be exceptional so you can be exceptional. Oh, no. Mediocrity is the American product. They always say, what does America manufacture? Nothing except for mediocrity. Mediocrity, attitude, and bad health. We do a lot of that. We certainly could manufacture other things, but we spend too much of our time tooting our own horn, claiming how we're so much greater than all the other nations. And when you ask Americans, well, what makes you great? They can't articulate it. But no surprise there. It's not okay for the bar to be set so low that we don't expect nothing from our government. You should. You paid for it. As long as you're paying into these systems, you deserve to have the things that you are paying for. Period. If they want to take it away, then you shouldn't still have to pay for it. That's the thing that I believe. If I still have to pay, yeah, you're gonna make sure I stay out of them services. If not, if you ain't gonna give me the service, then I shouldn't have to pay for it. Now let's bring this home. How many of you, or how many of us, because I'm gonna include myself in this conversation, I'm not above having this conversation, were raised on the idea that needing help is weakness? Because I think that for a lot of Americans, that's where a lot of this starts. Like, how many of us have felt you feel some shame about applying for food stamps or for Medicaid, even though we pay into those systems? It's not like that when you go to request that assistance, you didn't pay in. You pay taxes. See, when the self-reliance myth gets internalized, people start blaming themselves for systematic failures. And that's the wrong move to make. They don't ask for help. They don't demand better. They just suffer in silence, and you're not required to suffer in silence. That is a personal decision that we make as individuals where we don't have to. And quiet is kept, it's generational too. It's generational. You gotta understand, a lot of this stuff gets passed down. We have whole families raised in a mindset of scarcity and fear. You don't ask for anything or it might be taken from you. But that's not greatness. I don't call that American exceptionalism. Personally, I think that it's cruel. It's cruel and it's traumatic. That's how I feel. Now I'm gonna break it down further because we're gonna talk some real life examples for you to understand where I'm coming from and why I say what I say. For example, how many black women do you know like raising entire families on their own with little to no support because they were taught they had to be the strong black woman no matter what? That strength, while beautiful and powerful, I'm not saying that it isn't, has also become a cage. It is a cage. The world expects us to carry all of it. All of it. And when we ask for help, we're told we're lazy or not doing enough. I'll give you another example. Think about the immigrant families who avoid public programs, even when their kids qualify, because they're afraid of being targeted or penalized. So it's not that they don't need the help. They don't want the shame. They don't want the attacks. They don't want the judgment. None of that. The system has told them not to trust government, not to expect dignity. That's a scam again, y'all. That's a scam again because people in other countries don't have that type of relationship with their government. Because there's an understanding that this government exists because of we the people. That's why it exists. That is why it exists. And in rural white communities, this same scam works differently, but still effectively, right? I need you to understand that. Okay? It's the mindset of like real Americans don't take handouts. That's why folks will be living in poverty, struggling with health care, drowning in medical debt, and still vote for a guy who promises to slash Medicaid. Because they don't see Medicaid as something for them. Even though they need it, even though they need it, they've been taught to associate it with someone else, someone undeserving. Because God forbid they take a look in the mirror and figure out they need it, right? It's about shame. Do y'all understand? It's about shame. Shame becomes the tool to keep people from fighting for what's already theirs. Understand the stuff that you're fighting for is already yours. You paid for it. You pay for disaster relief. You pay for good schools. You pay for good functioning roads and bridges. You understand? These are things you already pay for. So you should be getting them. Let's take a look let's take a look at the schools too, right? Think about how underfunded schools become a norm. That's a normal thing in America to have a school that doesn't get enough money. How parents get used to fundraising for basic supplies. When I was growing up as a kid, we had fundraisers, but it wasn't nearly as many as schools have to have now. You got teachers buying materials out of pocket. Why? Because they can't get the supplies through the school system. That's not community spirit. But see, people will have you thinking, oh, that's the community coming together, blah, blah, blah. No, it's also government failing to do its job. It failed to do its job, but then it also manipulates people into covering the gap with guilt and unpaid labor. So they guilt you into helping and doing things that technically are not your responsibility to do. They're actually the responsibility of government to do. But they guilt you into doing them and you do them for free. No. At some point, we got to cut that off and go, no, we can't keep allowing that to happen. We can't keep letting them do that. At some point, we got to address it. And the mental toll, you got to understand what this does to your body mentally. You're going to be under constant stress, anxiety, fear of what happens if you miss a paycheck, or the car breaks down, or a child gets sick. I've been there. You laying in bed, you trying to sleep, but you thinking about all the things in your life that you got to get done. Because it ain't really a whole lot of time for sleeping. Why? You need to make money. Money, money, money. Everything's about getting paid, making money so you can survive. Because America is literally the land of survival of the fittest. If you can make it here, you could probably make it anywhere, I guess. I don't know. But I just know that in America, this system is constantly working to tear you up and tear you down. Constantly. But see, this is the other thing that it does to you. You're not allowed to talk about that though. Because you're supposed to be doing it all. You understand? You're supposed to be doing all, running yourself ragged, running from one end of the ship to the other with no rest in sight. Because apparently it's supposed to make you feel like a better American. Okay. That's not how I see it, but that's how some see it. That's not how I see it. I want y'all to hear this clearly. There is no shame in needing help. I'm going to say it again. There is no shame in needing help. The shame is in a government that refuses to offer it. That's what the shame is, frankly. A government that refuses to offer it and loves to see your suffering. That's a problem. That's a problem. Because, see, the more we internalize this scam, the more we turn on each other. And that's what the system wants. Because then we think someone else is taking more than they should be able to take. When that's not the truth. The truth is the rich are hoarding the pot. And we're fighting over scraps, y'all. We're fighting over the scraps while rich people are having the time of their lives. Do you understand? We need to shift the narrative from survival to solidarity. Real talk. From silence to like loud ass, unapologetic demands. Because remember, they can only do to us what we allow. I think a lot of times us working class people, we forget that we are the entity that allows rich people to make money. They can't make money without us. And that's a fact. They cannot make money without us. They need us to make money. Hell, even if they wanted to use robots, they still need people like us to build them. That part. It's not as simple as some people try to pretend to make it out to be. But I'm telling y'all, we gotta shift the narrative, because if we never shift the narrative, we're always gonna be trapped in this hamster wheel of shit. Because that's really what it is. It's a hamster wheel of stuff. A hamster wheel of stuff. And we all deserve better than this. I know I do, and I know you do too. I know you do. So let's dream out loud, y'all. What would it look like if we actually expected, that's the key word, the government to serve us? And it did. Let's talk about universal basic income. Yeah, the idea that people should have a financial floor, not a ceiling, a floor that they can count on regardless of their job status. Yeah, not only would it reduce poverty, it would free people from staying in toxic jobs or abusive relationships just to keep the lights on. Because that's what a lot of people are doing now. Or maybe we could do like a community-owned energy and water system or something. Because see, when utilities aren't about profit, but about people, you get reliability. See, you get transparency. You get repairs that come before the disaster, not after. Because see, when they're doing it for profit, they don't want to do anything that doesn't equal profit. Oh, and healthcare? Imagine a country where nobody's afraid to call 911 because they don't know how they'll pay the ambulance bill. That's real security, when people can just call when they need help. Yeah, that is security. What if local governments were funded not based on tax base, but on population need? What if that happened? So that poor towns didn't have the worst fire departments or fewer flood resources than rich towns, because that's how it works now. You can't tell me that's not possible. We print money for war, for banks, for $1 billion tax breaks. We have the money. It's the will that's missing because we got the resources. Like, I want to bring it back to schools again. Universal free meals, mental health counselors, nurses in every school, not just in the good zip codes. That's support. That is investing in our future. That's what that looks like. And beyond government, we honestly need a cultural shift where community care isn't seen as charity, but it's a necessity. It's a necessity where mutual aid isn't a replacement for government, but a supplement while we fight for better. Where people aren't embarrassed to ask for help and aren't ashamed to give it. We need people that we the people means the people, not corporations, not campaign donors, us. That's what real support looks like. A country where survival is not a miracle, it's a minimum. It's a minimum. So understand, the scam of self-reliance is this. They gaslight you into believing you shouldn't expect anything. So when they give you nothing, you won't fight back. That's what that is. And here's the truth. You deserve more. You and I both know that you do. You deserve a working infrastructure. You deserve disaster relief. You deserve leadership that doesn't disappear when the weather turns. You deserve to be cared for, because that's what a real government is supposed to do. So my question for all y'all is this, because it's a very simple question. How much are you willing to lose to keep pretending you don't need help? And how much longer are you going to let people, right, in power tell you that your suffering is your own fault? It's time to flip the script, okay? Demand more, expect more, speak louder, vote sharper. Because this self-reliance hustle, baby, it's a scam. And we're not even buying it anymore, okay? I can't wait to hear you guys' opinions and feedback about this episode, because I would love to hear it. I appreciate that you joined me today and you listened to the Straight No Chaser podcast episode. So I want to let you know, until next time, you got to stay sharp, stay safe, and stay ready. Because what do I always tell you? Don't let nobody live rent free in your head. Don't feed the trolls. And you can accomplish anything you put your mind to, as long as you stay consistent. Peace, you guys.